Welcome into a special presentation here on VikeNation.org. My name is Jason Griefer, and it's a very unique day here in mid-November. It's signing day and a special occasion, a celebration of all the hard work that gets put in for these student athletes on and off the floor. And we're very happy to be joined by one of those young men reaping all the rewards of such hard work over the last few years. And that's Princeton senior guard Bowen Hardman joining us here today for this interview here. He is now officially, finally, an Ohio State Buckeye, finally putting pen to paper today. And so he has been gracious enough to give us some time here today. Bowen, first of all, we appreciate the time. And right out of the gate, I just want to know, because you've been committed for such a while, and we're going to get into that here in just a moment, what were your emotions like when you finally had that piece of paper in front of you and you were able to finally put your name down and make it official that you are an Ohio State Buckeye?
Oh, man, it meant the world. So many emotions, so many feelings going through me, just being so anxious, I think, being able to do it. I think it's been a while, but, it means the world. I mean, you sit there and you're like, holy crap, like my life is changing even more. And to really, really be a part of the Ohio State University now is huge for me. And really sitting there, like every thought you can think of goes to your mind. I'm just very, very blessed and very humble to be in this opportunity that I'm at. And, I think the sky's the limit and just got to keep working.
We saw the video has already been put out on social media by Ohio State, so they can now officially say as well that you're on board. We saw your family sitting there at the table with you. What's this been like for your family, seeing this leading up to this day and them seeing you finally be able to fulfill your dream and fill that out?
Oh, I know it means the world, especially for my mom, with being on the journey that, I've been on and everything that's happened with my dad. It's been hard, but, I think now for her to see her son to be very successful and, to have a great role model for her two daughters and my two sisters, it's huge. And, I'm so happy and so blessed to have her as my mom and everything that we've been through together and all the journeys and all the opportunities. Like, I know it means the world to her. And I'm just blessed to be able to keep working for not just myself, but for them. I have to keep myself going. Can't stop. Just got to keep working. And I know that she's going to be very, very proud.
And that's a good perspective. I have a very mature head on your shoulders as well. I'm sure that was a big selling point for the Ohio State staff. We'll get into that here in just a moment. I also want to know, I know I'm sure you were watching the game last night against Akron. Yeah. And the fact that your team needed a buzzer beater to beat them, I'm wondering your stress level and how close you were to jumping into your car and driving up there and telling Coach Holtmann to suit you up.
Oh, man. I was on my toes, pretty much the entire game. I think people count Akron out to be not as a good team as they are. And I mean, they have a really good team, got a lot of vets, and I think that Ohio State has to get adjusted to having some young guys, especially with Kyle not playing, I think is huge. And having Jimmy not play as much either is huge. But I think that, but with that last second with the right play call, I didn't expect, Malachi to be as aggressive. And it actually shocked me because I'm like, man, I've seen him play and he can go. Like, he's one of the most talented players I've ever watched. But to see him really his first game attack and really just try to get it to the rim was huge. But I mean, for him to get that read with 3 seconds left with him and Zed, man, I was on my toes because you could see the urge for him to want to shoot it real quick. But then he sees Zed open wide up, that duck in, and I mean, you got to feed it to the big man. I love Zed. He's one of my really close, friends so far on the team. But, it's a great play. I was on my toes a little bit, but at the end of the day, in the back of my head, I'm like, they're good. They're going to get the job done.
Sigh of relief, or did you know it all along they were going to pull it out?
I think it was both, because at the end, because I'm like, okay, so they had the put back by Zed in the beginning, right as Akron had that play where they came down, and step back three by Ali was a huge shot with the and one. I mean, it's very hard for that to happen in a game like that. But for them for me, I was definitely stressed out because I'm like, oh, they'll be fine. He hits that shot, and I'm like, oh, hold up, we're gonna have to sit back a little bit. But at the end, I'm like, I know one of them's going to hit a game winner. I know they're going to have a great play set up, and props to Coach Holtmann for getting Michi the ball to come with the court and take that timeout to get him in that position. But it definitely had me on the edge a little bit.
Want to know. That's all that matters at this point. You move on from there and
Yeah.
try to improve. Let's get back to talking about you and your recruiting process here. This is very unique. You're in a unique situation here because you've been committed to Ohio State verbally since the end of your sophomore year. That is very atypical for a lot of high school recruits to make their decisions so early on in their high school career. So I'm wondering, since you've been committed now for 18 months roughly, when did your relationship start with the Ohio State staff? Because it's very early on that all has happened and you commit at the end of your sophomore year.
Yeah, so my relationship with all the coaching staff, Coach Diablo, Coach Holtmann, Coach Peden, kind of started in my freshman summer, going into my sophomore year. They came to a lot of games, when I was playing with All Ohio Red. I know that they love to watch that program, especially with getting, Jared Sullinger from there and a couple other guys. But, they really like the program and for them to come watch it and give their time out of the day to come watch any player they possibly could and come watch me was huge. And that really showed me the characteristic of the coaches. I know that a lot of coaches go around and watch, a whole bunch of kids in a day, but it's so young and so early, you don't really see coaches stick with certain guys. And, they did that all my AU career. They're at most of my AU games, at least one of the coaches. And it just shows how much time and dedication they really wanted to give for me and to really get to see me, not just on the court, but as a person. And, that relationship grew even stronger and stronger when, I went on my unofficials and really just, had the impact, not just the atmosphere there, but, the coaches, family feel in general.
So they start looking at you really seriously going into your sophomore year. You commit by the end of your sophomore year. It was May of 2020 that you make the announcement you're going to Ohio State. Take us through that process throughout the fall into the winter into the spring, where the relationship grows to the point where you get to May and you've decided this is it. I don't want to look anywhere else. I know I'm going to Ohio State.
Man, I think the biggest thing is right as you step foot on campus, at first it's like, holy crap, it's a huge, the atmosphere is ridiculous, especially with tailgates and the basketball games. And you're like, oh yeah, it's like that at every college that you're going to visit. But then it constantly reoccurs. And I'm like, hold up, there's something really special about this place for me. Because every time I get there, I get goosebumps. I'm like, okay, I'm here. It's a feeling you can't explain. And that definitely helped because every single time that, I step on campus, I want to be the best version of myself I possibly can be. And, and that's not saying anything to the other schools because there are a lot of great other schools a lot of really good other schools out there. But, it's just very, very different. And like I said before, like that family feel, like the dedication for them wanting to know who I was before, just watching me play like off the court and having me on a couple of visits and then finally offering me, I think was a huge part of me, like being mature and realizing like, okay, these guys mean business. They want the best thing possible for me and to be successful for the Ohio State University too, as well.
So you go through this process, and as you alluded to there, I'm sure other schools are in contact with you during your career there before leading up to your commitment to Ohio State. So I'm wondering at that point then, what is it about Chris Holtmann and his staff that you connected with and resonated with you that further sealed the deal in your mind beyond just stepping on campus, stepping into the arena every time and getting that special feeling? What was it about those interpersonal relationships between you and Chris Holtmann and his staff that really sealed the deal, made you decide this is the coaching staff I want to play for?
I think what really kind of like sealed the deal is that, the expectation is so high. Like, perfection is not enough, I think, in my eyes. And that's kind of how they look like, we have to work our butts off no matter what. We don't want just Division I guys coming into our program. We want guys that want to be pros, want to be professionals, want to be this, and that want to help our team win, as well as be, very successful players with just yourself. And, really seeing how, serious the business topic of it was, like, coming in, like making sure that, like you come in and you don't do your job, you're going to be gone. Like, I think that's kind of like drew me in because it was like, I want this, like, this is my life. Like, this is where I want to be at, in the next 10 years, kind of planning it out. But, I think just wanting to work so much, that perfection is not enough, I think is kind of how I could explain it. Like, just the work ethic that they want their players to put in is kind of how my mindset is. Like, it will never be good enough. You have to get in the gym even more. You have to keep doing this. You have to keep doing that. Like, just grinding as much as you possibly can to be the best version of yourself on and off the court as you possibly can.
Where does that inner drive come from you that you want to go play for a coach who subscribes to a mantra, if you will, that perfection isn't enough? There's always room to improve. Is that something that comes from within you? What's that like as you're trying to pursue something that may not always be attainable in that perfection, if you will?
I think it's definitely been, inside of me, ever since I was playing, especially with my dad being a coach. That's kind of how he was, like, like perfection would never be enough. Like, there's always going to be someone else in the gym trying to perfect the craft that you're doing. What do you do that separates yourself? And, that stuck with me all my career. Like, and there's been like days where I felt like, oh man, I didn't do enough. And there's days where like, oh, like this is my time. Like I'm working my butt off more than anybody. And, I think, especially with growing older and getting more mature, junior and senior year, it's like, this is my job now. This isn't a hobby. This isn't like something you do to have fun. Like, this is my job. Like, this is what I have to do to be successful in my career for myself. And later on, way down the line, my family. But, I think that's where that drive comes from that I see in Coach Holtmann. Like, Coach Holtmann doesn't want a Final Four. He wants a national championship. And a lot of coaches, that's hard to get. Like, Final Four is amazing. Like, it's unheard of. You know what I mean? It's unheard of. And stuff that it's really hard to get there, but they're chasing after the national championship. And, a lot of teams, a lot of colleges say that, but how many of those teams do that or do the stuff that's required to get there? And, just seeing them and what they do at practices, knowing that they wake up at 5 o'clock, they run, then they go right to practice, doing all that stuff just shows like, okay, this is where I want to be, because this is the atmosphere. This is the place that I'm going to be at. This is going to make me the most successful person I can possibly be.
So as we talked about, you've been committed for a while, for about 18 months now, as I said, at the end of your sophomore year. So you were the first to commit in this upcoming 2022 class. Obviously, several other guys have since signed on and will be joining you in Columbus next year. So I'm wondering, at that point, how much recruiting you have done over the last 2 years in the summers on select circuits, AAU, what have you, when you're out there seeing all these other great players and trying to sell them, hey, we got something going here. You need to come join me in Columbus.
I think the biggest thing is like, I knew that they were recruiting Bruce and Roddy really hard at first, because those were the first 3 guys to commit, including myself. And I just remember like, it was hard too with COVID, especially not being able to play AAU, but watching film on those guys and seeing how they played, it's like, man, like, imagine if these guys were next to me on the floor with me, like what they could do, what we could do for each other. I think that it starts with, like a simple text, like, hey, what's up, man? Like, I heard you're visiting Ohio State. Like, what'd you think of it? Like, I think it starts always there. I was so blessed, and I know a lot of them guys are blessed to be able to finally get on campus with each other on our official visit, because everyone was there, especially with Felix too. I think that it was huge for just the 4 of us, because there's the 5, the 5 freshmen coming in. For the 4 of us to kind of meet in person finally after a long time was huge. But I think that recruiting process, from my point of view, was very strong. Like, just texting them, keeping them updated on stuff, seeing how they liked all the posts for Ohio State, all that kind of stuff. I think that's huge for guys wanting to commit, because you want to be in a program or atmosphere where guys want to play for each other and not for themselves.
How important was that to you during the last couple of summers in building a relationship with the guys that you knew were coming, or you had a pretty good feeling were coming before they made it official and whatnot, so that when you get to Columbus, you're a pretty tight-knit group? How big was that for you?
It's huge. And, like I said, at first it kind of was hard, because we didn't get to we didn't really know each other. All of us didn't know each other as much. But, as time passed, where guys started to commit one by one, it's like, okay, we have something special. Let's kind of get this thing figured out early on now. So, like, when we get on campus, like, we're clicking right away. Because I think that's huge, because, we're going to be a very young team. And, in the Big Ten, young teams kind of struggle a little bit. But usually those teams that have that maturity, have that, vision of each and every one of the guys on the team that know what they do best and do their job, I think helps teams win that are young. And, knowing Bruce and all those guys, like, seeing what they do best can help me be better for myself, because now I can, go in the game and know what they like, what spots I got to pick on the floor, what spots they need to pick, to be very successful. And I think that's huge with putting it on.
All right, Bowen, let's talk about your upcoming season here at Princeton, because you still have one more to go before you get to Columbus. Obviously, it's the focus of our chat here today is that you've signed with Ohio State today. And obviously, that's a huge, huge deal. But as I said, one more year to go at Princeton. And this is a very unique team that you have back this season for Princeton because there's not a lot back. You lost 7 seniors from a team last year that only went 8-6, but COVID played a major, major factor in the kind of ups and downs of the season and never really allowed your team to get into a flow. So I'm wondering, the fact that you've lost so much from a year ago and the fact that now you're even more of a focus because you've lost so much, and combine the fact that everybody knows this kid signed with Ohio State. He's pretty darn good. What's been the focal point for your work in the off season, not only as a player, but as a leader, so that when you step into the season, which is starting in just a few weeks, you can hit the ground running and you can take this team into the upper echelon of the GMC?
Yeah, like you said, with losing those 7 seniors is huge. And, we lost a great defense, group of guys, and it's hard. And, I think for me, like the thing that I had to come to grips with myself is this offseason was you got to be able to stand and defend. You got to be able to defend, a lot of the better players in the team, faster guards. I think that's a huge part for my game. At the same time, work on not just being a lights out shooter, and being able to create space. I think, driving to the rim and finishing through contact is huge. And I think for me, the biggest part about that is getting the foul line. I remember last year I didn't get to the foul line as much as I should have, and I think that really affected a lot of people's games and a lot of our games. Whether it was on the road or at home. And, I just had to really come to grips with you got to be able to sit, defend, talk, the rotations, 110%, even when things get out of whack, on the defensive side. And at the same time on the offensive side, be a playmaker, go in, get a good bucket, at the same time drive and make great passes, rebound the ball on the offensive side even more. Stuff like that can really, help our team in the long run. And like you said, kind of keep us up in the upper echelon of teams. But, that comes with the leadership part too, doing those things and showing a lot of the younger guys and even some veteran guys, like, it's no joke. Like, we got to all do our part. We all have to perform. We all have to play together as a team. Like, all that kind of stuff helps us be able to win games. But at the same time, like, shows like, hey, like, I've been grinding through the off season. Like, this is my life. Like, I'm doing this to not just win GMC, but go far in the tournament as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm with that. Obviously, practice has been going on for a little while now. You're getting accustomed to, as we said, a lot of new guys having to come in that are some of them likely going to be in positions they're going to need to come in and step in right away and help take some of that pressure off of you. What's that been like for you in practice, having to show this new crop of players, okay, this is what we need to do, this is how we need to play if we want to be a truly elite team that can not only contend in the conference, but as you said, make a deep run in the state tournament?
I think the biggest part with me being able to do that stuff is I think it has really put a lot of guys on notice, like, hey, like, if you don't do these things or do the same stuff that I'm doing, whether it's defending or being able to shoot the ball or drive or run the offense well, like, it's going to be hard for you to play. And I think with me doing all these things, it shows our guys, like, hey, we got to step up. We have to rotate. We have to do all this stuff, like, whether it's defense or offensive side of the ball. And, for me, I think that it definitely is a huge part of being a successful team all around. Like, you can, like you said, like, you can be the guy going to Ohio State, but if your guys aren't winning games, like, there's something wrong. Like, you got to have adjustments. And I think since the guys have been seeing me do all these things, like, it's really put them, in perspective. Like, okay, and I'm actually really, really proud of our younger guys. We have so much, more to prove, and so much more to work on. But they're doing a great job so far with handling the adversity on good and bad days. Really just sitting on defense as well as performing on offense.
Has your relationship changed at all with Coach Wyatt now that you are stepping into this prominent role given the fact that you're just one of a couple of returners from last year? Have you gotten closer? Is he giving you freedom to let guys know, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that? How has that relationship evolved?
Yeah, definitely. Our relationship has definitely got, much, much more closer. I think we all know being a first year coach in the GMC is tough. And, me and him talked about that all the time. Like, hey, we got to be better from last year. And, he said, I got to be better and he's got to be better. And that just doesn't come with just us two, but everyone in our program in general. Just sitting down and like I said, like you said, in that leadership role and talking to him about certain problems, like he's been able to give me that freedom to make decisions for our team, to talk to our players, certain ways and help them get mentally focused and being able to do the right things. Like, a lot of that trust has grown, so much has been grown, since last year. And I think, being able to go out every single day on the floor and know that you have a coach that's right by your side, that has your back, and a player that has your back is a huge plus. And, I think that all top tier programs have that guy or have that dude that can do that really well, that, expects greatness from every single player, no matter if you're sitting bench or you're a sixth man or you're a starter. Like, he really gives you that power and trust to go out there every single day and to perform and get guys in the right place.
Couple of more questions here before we let you go so you can continue celebrating this big day. Let's spin it back forward again and talk about what our main focus is here today with you signing with Ohio State and looking forward. We look at this recruiting class, the way it's put together right now. 24/7 Sports has it rated as the #1 recruiting class in the Big Ten and #6 in the country. That's a big deal. Obviously, it's among the who's who as far as college basketball programs, as far as the national recruiting class goes. Do you pay attention to those rankings at all? Do you see how those things shake out? And if so, does that change, or how does that set your expectations for this recruiting class that you are going to be a big part of going into Columbus next year? Because as you said, it's likely going to be a young team next year that's going to be called upon to be among the elite in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, the last 2 years, like you said, like the 18 months, I've been able to sit down and see how our team has been able to add and just become one of those dominant recruiting teams. And, like you said, so strong and having a really good class is very important. It's very important for the program to grow, to have expectations, to get even more guys in. It just really shows what direction the program's going in, and props to Coach Holtmann and all that. So, I really think that with our rankings, it also, it's a blessing in disguise now, because now you're going to have the programs like, oh, you guys think you're better. It's like, you're going to have to go out every single night and perform. And, I trust and know that we have a group of guys that are going to do that and come out on top. And, just being rated that high is a blessing, like I said, but it also comes with you butts off, because now you're in a position, to be the best. You got to perform like the best. You got to go into game days like the best. You got to do everything the best. And, it really shapes up everything for us and just shows, like I said, what type of program Ohio State has become in the last, I wouldn't even say a couple of years, has been growing into the last, 10 years or so. And it really shows how everything is paying off. But, like I said, those rankings, that, once we get there, it probably won't matter as much since you're playing against anybody, any competition coming on any given day. But at the same time, it also, has an expectation for all of us, like, okay, we're here, we got to perform every day like we're #1, and have that thought process in our mind no matter what.
So lastly here, before we let you go, and again, we do appreciate your time. Obviously, it's a big day. Names coming in from all over the place, from all over the country, that are eventually going to converge on Columbus. One thing I wanted to have you kind of do as we're wrapping up here today, for fans who have not been able to get down to Princeton from Columbus or from anywhere in the state of Ohio and see you play in person. Maybe they've seen some highlights here or there. Maybe you've seen a little bit of work with you on the summer circuit. For Buckeye fans out there who aren't maybe not fully familiar with you yet, what kind of player will they be getting when Bowen Hardman arrives to campus next year?
Yeah, I think definitely that they need to know that I'm going to be one of those hard-nosed guys that's going to come in every single day, in and out, and work my butt off. I feel like I bring a lot of upside and even a lot of potential too, with not just offensively wise, but defensively wise. I have a great shot. I have great offensive ability and defensive ability that is getting even better than what it was and where it's came from. And a guy that's just going to do his best every single day with his teammates, in the classroom, out of the classroom, just a hard-nosed guy that is there to get the job done and, to win a lot of games and, to make a great, tournament and hopefully win a national championship.
Everything seems to be in place for a run like that. Princeton senior guard Bowen Hardman joining us here on VikeNation.org as he makes it official. Finally, you can breathe, Bowen. You are officially an Ohio State Buckeye. Congratulations on that. We appreciate the time, and we'll be looking forward to your progress this year.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
He's ready to go. OH?
IO, baby.
Thank you very much. Bowen Hardman joining us here for this exclusive interview here on VikeNation.org and ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.